Well, with more, we're now joined by Tony Wakeham, the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador. Premier, nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, glad to be here.
So here you are in Ottawa. You've met with the Prime Minister, and I know one of the issues you wanted to talk about with Mark Carney is offshore oil, in particular with Bay du Nord. But 2 years ago, the principal player in that, Norwegian company Equinor, they put that project on hold because of what they called challenging market conditions. Have things now changed?
Yes, it certainly have, and I had a great meeting with Equinor recently, and they've talked about the desire to move forward with this project. Clearly, we want to see that move forward, so we had a great chat with the Prime Minister about, and when we talk about nation-building projects, and for me it was about signaling to the world that Canada is in the oil and gas business. We always have been, but for a while there, we weren't really promoting that. And we all understand the world is transitioning, but there's still a great demand for oil around the world. And we believe that the province of Newfoundland is well positioned to supply some of that world demand, and Canada should be a supplier. So as long as the world has a demand for oil, then let's make sure that as a country and as a province, we're able to provide that.
So when Equinor is expressing interest again, what are they looking for here? Some type of guarantee that the government will be on side, that they're not going to face opposition to development of that offshore oil?
I think and the reason I talked about it as a nation-building project is it's one that's already started, as you alluded to. The environmental assessment piece has been done, so now it's coming down to how they start to work. What does the work look like? When it comes to the ship that will be built, the vessel that will be built, the topsides, modules that will be built. And that's the discussion that we have had, because it's one thing to have a resource off our coast and to get royalties, but how do we make sure that we get the investment in the jobs that go with it? Currently in our province, there are 70% of our workforce trades NL, which represents about 14 different unions, that are unemployed. This project has an opportunity to have some of that work done right there in Newfoundland and Labrador. We've done it before. We've done it with other major oil projects. We have the resources, we have the locations, we have the skilled workforce. So now it's about working with Equinor, and they've recently said that they will commit to going out and issuing an expression of interest for all the modules and topsides to be done in Newfoundland and Labrador. So we want to partner with them. And I want the federal government to be a partner so that all three of us can turn around and look for a way to move this project forward. Because as a nation-building project, it will signal to the world that Canada is in the oil and gas industry. And for Newfoundland and Labrador, as I said the other day, it signals that we're back in the oil and gas industry. And there is more exploration to be done offshore. There are more companies that want to invest. So let's make sure we create an environment that is open for that. But it's important for me to maximize the benefits. And when I talk about the benefits, it's not just about royalty benefits. It has to be about the opportunity for workers to work and be put to work in Newfoundland and Labrador.
How many jobs do you think this might create for your province?
I think it's over a period of years. It has a tremendous amount of work that will be available to them. The exact number, I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect it'll be in the thousands. And that's why this is critical, and developing other industries along with that to go. And as I said, this project signals the return. It's been 3 years now that we've had no competitive bids on parcels of land for our offshore. But we need to say, and that's why, again, it's so important to signal that, we're back in the business and we want you to come. Mm-hmm. And as long as the world has that need, well, hey, we're here and we can provide it.
It's interesting that you and I are speaking today, because we're speaking as the government, the federal government, announces an MOU with Alberta to explore how they develop natural resources. And in Alberta's case, they're talking about a pipeline to the Pacific Coast, and they are willing to put dollars on the table, not a lot, ultimately, $14 million, I think is the estimate, to put an application forward to the Major Projects Office to talk about that pipeline. Is Newfoundland and Labrador willing to do the same, to be the principal backer or proponent for development of Bay du Nord to the MPO?
Well, I don't think they're looking for us to be the principal backer, but I think what they're looking for is to make sure that we're part of the solution. And I think the federal government has a role to play in that as well. And that's what I talk about de-risking this. They have shareholders that they're responsible for. And I always say, and I understand that, and I say, well, I have over 500,000 shareholders that I'm responsible for. So we respect that. I understand they have a timeline to meet. They have deadlines to meet. They have costs to be contained within a certain parameters. So let's not talk about why something can't go ahead. Let's talk about how we make it go ahead. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm interested in doing.
So we'll watch where that develops. Bay du Nord, people across the country, keep that in mind. But I also want to talk about Churchill Falls while you're here, because obviously there was an MOU signed by Newfoundland, Labrador with Quebec a year ago. In fact, we're approaching the 1-year anniversary early in December. But you now want to do a review of that agreement. What is lacking in that agreement?
Well, there are three concerns, and the agreement is really made up of three different components. If you think we have the original Upper Churchill Agreement, which is the one people talk about most, that expires in 2041. But then we're talking about the potential to retrofit the turbines that are there now to make them more efficient, to produce more electricity. We're also talking about adding more turbines to that plant, and we're also talking about a development of Gull Island. And Gull Island has been considered to be perhaps the best hydroelectricity project in North America to be developed. So there's tremendous opportunity there. But when we think about our resources, for too long, Newfoundland and Labrador has simply been, our resources have simply been sold. I want to talk about how can we use our resources? How can we develop our resources to create industry in our own province? We know there have been lots of industries created in other provinces because of our hydroelectricity exports. But how do we what's the art of the possible for doing that in our own province? We know the demand for electricity in the world is changing. We know there's a significant opportunity here. So when I talk about doing a review, I want to make sure that we've explored all of the options that we've had. I want to understand what was considered when the MOU was being negotiated. What were we looking at? Did we look at all of the other options? So there's lots of things like that. And I think that's what we need to do in our province. When I think about, we're into this 50-year plus, and now we're about to talk about signing up for another 50 years. And I have said many times, 40 years from now when I'm long gone, I want people to make sure that we're not turning around and find ourselves in a similar situation. And I think to take the time to explore other options is due diligence on our part. We have to get this right, and I'm committed to doing that.
Do you have the time, though? Like, as this current MOU stands with Quebec, you have until the end of April to ratify it. If not, you revert back to the original agreement that so many Newfoundlanders take issue with.
I believe that at the end of the day, we have an opportunity. I believe that Quebec has a need for power. We have the power. But I also believe we have a resource that the world is interested in. And so these deadlines were put forward, but I'm not concerned about a deadline. I'm concerned about the future of Newfoundland and Labrador and the generations that will come after me. And what was interesting, in 1969, when this deal was first signed with Quebec, there was a unanimous support in the House of Assembly. And yet, when you think back now, here we are, and we're talking about what a bad deal. And how do we get out of it? We've been trying for years. So let's take our time and let's look at all our options. That doesn't mean we won't do a deal with Quebec, but hey, I'll do a deal with anyone, anywhere. But I want to make sure that I maximize that value for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Quickly running out of time, but a quick answer, if you will. I'm wondering, how would you assess the meetings you've had with the Prime Minister and the ministers of his government?
I think those have been great meetings. We've brought up a lot of issues. We've talked about Bay du Nord, nation-building projects. We've talked about defense spending, the opportunities that Newfoundland and Labrador has to contribute to that. We have the resources, we have the workers, and we've also talked about our fishery and some of the challenges there with the tariffs and stuff. And even most recently today, the announcement of the steel, because for our province, most of the steel to build infrastructure has to be imported from countries that potentially could be on the tariff list now. So we need to talk about what that transportation route looks like. We've talked about rail today, but of course we don't have a railway, so we live on an island, so we want to make sure. and we've had great discussions about that. So I'm really looking forward to more. There's lots of work to be done, and but I think the dialogue was there, and I was very appreciative of the fact that the Prime Minister was once again interested in the oil industry and moving that forward. And so I'm looking forward to further meetings with all of them.
Well, I look forward to further conversations with you, Premier. Really nice to meet you. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you.